Hey gang, welcome to another edition of Doc's Dumpster, where it's a review of the movie Tommy Boy. Thomas Callahan III finally graduated from college after 7 years. So he goes back home to his old hometown of Sandusky, Ohio to work at his father's auto parts factory. And his father's known as Big Tom. Well, sometime after Tommy Boy gets back home, his dad's going to have a wedding and he's going to marry a woman named Beverly. But at the wedding, his dad dies of a heart attack, so Tommy pretty much has to try and take over things. And to keep things going at the factory, he goes on a road trip with his co-worker higher up in the company, something like that, Richard. So they go on a road trip, as I said, and as you would probably guess, things go from bad to much, much worse. But they eventually start doing pretty good at some of the meetings. They start doing all right. And they make it to Chicago to meet up with a man named Zelinsky, who is pretty much more interested in buying the company and just having the name to it rather than have a bunch of workers around and everything like that. Well, needless to say, Tommy and Richard wind up saving the day. But also along the way, they also find out that the woman Big Tom married named Beverly, well, she lied to everybody and told everybody that she had a son named Paul. Turns out Beverly and Paul are lovers. So, Paul suffers a pretty bad fate in the movie. No, he doesn't get killed off, but, well, let's just say he won't be having any children anytime soon. And Beverly winds up walking off with Zelinsky. Tommy and Richard go back to Sandusky, Ohio, and everything seems to be okay. And the movie ends with Tommy out in the middle of a lake or something like that, talking to his dad in heaven. Some wind picks up. Tommy Boy seems pretty happy about it until the middle part of the sail spins around, knocks him in the head, and he says, "Oh, that's going to leave a mark." Seemed to be the catchphrase of Tommy Boy in this movie. The movie starred, as you see right there, Chris Farley, David Spade, Rob Lowe, Brian Dennehy, Bo Derek, and Dan Aykroyd. So now the big question is does this movie belong in a dumpster? Yeah. Oh, merciful heavens, gang. I gotta tell you, this was not the first Chris Farley movie I did see, but it was definitely one of the worst. I don't know why my brother loves this movie. I didn't like it. I saw it once, didn't think it was that funny. Maybe it's just because nothing in this movie looked completely realistic. I hate to say this, but I think Chris Farley never really had the chance to try to do anything else in movies. He always seemed to be the big fat guy who does physical humor throughout about 90% of the movie. And that worked in some movies, but in a lot of others, it just didn't. It was horrible, and this was one of those movies where they really try to rely more on gross-out humor and certain scenes that just seemed so stupid and didn't even seem real. The part where where we find out Richard is bald, you can obviously tell that was probably one of the lamest jokes of the whole movie. And some of Richard's one-liners in the movie to Tommy Boy were extremely lame, and they just got more annoying. I do have to admit, okay, the one part I found really, really funny is where they're at the gas station, and Tommy Boy, I believe he drives backwards with the door open. The door goes towards the front end of the car, and when Richard comes out to get back in the car, the door falls off. Tommy says, "What did you do?" I thought that was funny. Probably the only part of the whole movie I laughed at. But other than that, this was not a movie that I enjoyed very, very much. But Chris Farley has been in a couple of movies I did enjoy, and I will probably more than likely review them very, very soon, right here on this series. And but I think ultimately, if Chris Farley had still be with us today, I think he could have been sort of like the next John Candy. Do a few bad movies, do some really good movies. I think that all could have panned out, but unfortunately Chris left this world way too soon, and unfortunately he left us this really bad movie. I didn't like it very much, but I'd love to hear from you guys. Let me know what you think about Tommy Boy. Did you like it? Did you not like it? Let me know in the comments below, and that's going to do it for this little episode. And if you like my videos, feel free to subscribe, and if you have a movie that belongs in a dumpster and just drive it somewhere out of here, send it my way, and I'll get on it ASAP. Thank you guys so very, very much for watching, and until next time, as always, stay strong and rock on.